All right, here we go. So thank you for joining me today, Mason.
Yes, thank you.
So my first question is, what were you doing in life before you came to work at FASPS?
Well, before FASPS, I was living in Hawaii, where I was born and raised, and I was working at a private Catholic school, K through 12, where I worked for the previous 12 years as an English teacher. So, yep, I was just living in Honolulu, Hawaii, and just enjoying life there.
Yeah. How's the adjustment to Seattle from Hawaii been?
It's been great. I had come out to visit Seattle 3 or 4 times previously to visit friends, and absolutely fell in love with the natural beauty here, the gorgeous parks, amazing food, and of course the welcoming culture, the good job opportunities and lively economy. So a lot of things really attracted me to the Seattle area. And so I think the adjustment's going well. Of course, as we're entering winter, it is a transition, particularly the lack of light, but it's still beautiful. I kind of wake up every day thinking I'm in a rainforest, and even if it's dark, I'm still in the rainforest, so I like it.
Yeah. And you speak Hawaiian?
No. So Hawaiian is not widely spoken in Hawaii, but unfortunately, it almost died out, and there was a resurgence, interestingly, through immersion schools. So immersion schools played a huge role in saving the language, but I only speak, little words here and there and things like that. Most people from there speak like the pidgin. We just call it pidgin, but it's the pidgin of Hawaii. And but yeah, that's kind of an interesting combination of a lot of different Pacific languages, Hawaiian, plus some like Chinese, Japanese, Vietnamese, Filipino languages.
To reflect the immigrant population of Hawaii? Exactly.
A lot of the pidgin developed actually on plantations where different people had to communicate with each other, and it just kind of grew from there. Now there's a robust collection of literature and things surrounding pidgin. So a lot of people speak pidgin or will code switch between pidgin and standard American English, but it's actually considered a language by itself, which is, I'm not one to judge that, but I wouldn't consider myself bilingual in any way, but of course I do speak pidgin, but I definitely don't identify as someone who's bilingual.
Interesting. Yeah. And were your students at the school where you were, would they speak in pidgin?
Yes, and most of us would welcome that, especially if that's the language that our students are comfortable in. It is kind of different than the standard rules of grammar and things like that. So when it comes to like formal writing assignments, they would have to write, of course, in the standard English, but in dialogue and class discussion, pidgin is quite common. And it's good to know that people feel comfortable just speaking through their own voice and everything.
Absolutely.
But we did, of course, offer Hawaiian language, and my mom spoke Hawaiian fluently, and she worked for a nonprofit, Hawaiian nonprofit, so that's why she learned the language. But it's kind of rare, actually, to even hear Hawaiian spoken in public. It's very rare.
Wow.
Yeah, so like at a grocery store, you almost never hear it spoken or anything. Yeah.
So she learned it as a working adult and not as didn't grow up speaking it necessarily.
Exactly. Yes. So my family moved to Hawaii in the 70s, and I was born in 83, but she learned it over the years, but particularly when she got hired at the Queen Liliuokalani Children's Center, so the last monarch of Hawaii. So that trust that queen set up.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Hawaii has a very rich history with a lot of parallels to the culture here, just given that there were indigenous peoples, that really left a a positive influence. And unfortunately, it's hard to keep those languages alive, particularly. But
Right. Interesting. So that kind of answered my question about bilingual schools. How is our Franco-American culture different from other school cultures you've experienced?
Well, I've never actually taught in a bilingual school. We only offered a variety of foreign languages. So I think it's certainly different just in the sense that it's bilingual and really culturally rich in that sense. And I think it's really, what's the word, rigorous. The curriculum just by nature is rigorous in the sense that the students have to, really learn in both languages and learn about the culture through language. So I think I'm really impressed with the opportunity for students to learn about different cultures through language. And as I mentioned, like the connection to Hawaii and the saving of Hawaiian language through immersion schools, learning about that has always kind of it caught my attention, and I saw the power of bilingual schools. So that's one thing that really drew me to FASPS.
To the school. Wow. And have you always taught humanities?
Yes, I've always taught humanities, grades 9 through 12, though.
Okay.
So I've Marinol, my previous school, was very interdisciplinary and cross-curricular and integrative. So a lot of the courses I taught were very steeped in art, culture, history, language. So yes, I've always taught this subject.
Yeah, so that's been an easy transition, probably.
Yes, that's been a pretty easy transition. Although, like many teachers, I've enjoyed, I continue to enjoy learning. I feel like each year, even with the same curriculum, our job is to just, learn more about the subject and to learn with the kids. So it's been an easy transition, but I'm definitely learning a lot throughout the process.
Well, I imagine the middle schoolers are quite different from the high schoolers, or what are some of the differences?
I'd say one key difference I've noticed is the students' authentic engagement and motivation to learn. I think, unfortunately, as we age, sometimes our relationship to learning becomes less positive. And the first thing I notice about FASPS and its students is how motivated students are to learn and how positive they are and how eager they are to share in class, for example, whereas high school students are, in my experience, a little less likely to share their thoughts in class. So I would say that's one of the big differences. Another would be the lack of, with high school, we would give much more homework, so there was more independent work. Whereas, of course, middle school, they have so much going on, so a lot of the learning takes place in the classroom instead of through rigorous homework. But of course, we still give homework here, but we have to make sure with so many classes that we're not overwhelming them.
Right.
So that's another big difference.
And what are you working on in class these days?
Well, right now, we tend to juggle a lot of different things. Right now, students are learning about the indigenous peoples of the area, particularly of North America. And they're working in groups to create an engaging movie that will kind of introduce them to research, videography, editing, group dynamics, and things like that.
That's
citation.
Great.
Yeah.
Like documentary movies, or?
Yes, this is a pretty short entry into it, into the genre of about 10-minute films, and they're working in groups of 3 or 4. They're also working on, vocabulary, building vocabulary through teaching the class, and also they create their own sort of quiz test that they practice with each other on. And of course, writing's always in the forefront. They're journaling, and we'll soon be starting an individual research project in which which students will choose topics of their interests relating to Washington State, and we'll research that in depth, and then eventually present to the class on their findings. So just really looking at the English and humanities curriculum by genre, and writing across various genres as the main structure for the class.
Okay. Great. What are some of your hobbies and interests outside of school? Outside of work?
Oh, yeah. I love to cook, eat, try new restaurants, hang out with my friends, go to explore all the parks, particularly dog parks. I have a small dog. And what else? Travel when I have the time. Yeah, those are the main hobbies that come to mind.
Yeah. What's one or two of your favorite restaurants you've been to in Seattle?
Oh, I would say so far there's so many that's hard to choose, but I really enjoyed La Medusa in Columbia City.
Yeah,
it's great.
I live right in that neighborhood.
Oh,
it's
really?
A great restaurant. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So it's so close and delicious.
Yeah. Cool.
And what else did I like?
Oh, so you must know then the Genesee Dog Park.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I'm right there
on
the Genesee Dog Park. Oh, okay.
I live on 38th, just off Genesee.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I live on Alaska.
So
it's like super it's basically on the same block as the park, but on the opposite end.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that drew me to that area is that beautiful park, which takes you all the way to Lake Washington, and then from there you can safely bike or walk for miles.
Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah, it's so nice. I absolutely love it.
Yes, me too.
Do you walk a lot around that area, or?
I used to a ton, and actually, I would really I would go on full on urban hikes where I would go find there's these sort of I don't know if you've heard of the Olmsted Legacy. The Olmsted.
I don't think so.
It's a network of parks and green spaces in Seattle that was developed by this man Olmsted, I think, sort of around turn of the century, early 1900s, and it's basically to protect, Seattle's green spaces. Great. And there's big parts of, I think, Seward Park that are part of that, but then also you'll just sort of find these secret staircases that are kind of in the woods. Oh,
okay. I think I've seen those massively high. Yeah,
huge staircases that are usually connected to some kind of foresty trail but they wind in between Seattle neighborhoods, so you can actually walk from one end of Seattle to the other and more or less kind of be in the woods.
I think that's what I'm most impressed with. The area is just the amount of green space. Yeah,
absolutely. Seward Park is so beautiful.
Oh yes, and my favorite park is Kubota Garden.
Oh, I've never been there. It's crazy.
Oh, it's really worth it. It's so nice.
I have to go. Yeah, I bet.
It's gorgeous, and it's not usually too busy, so it's really nice. And then Marymoor Dog Park is really fun.
Cool.
Do you have pets or?
No, just kids.
Okay, well, that's enough. That's a lot.
For now it's enough. Great. Okay, and my last question is, can you tell us how to say Happy Holidays?
Oh yeah, sorry, I saw that question and I just know how to say Merry Christmas, Mele Kalikimaka.
Oh, that's
great. Hawaiian language is gorgeous language, very poetic and pretty. But I'm sure there is a way to be more general, but I think that's the only phrase I know for the holidays.
Mele
Kaliki Maka.
Mele Kaliki Maha?
Maka. Yeah.
Mele Kaliki Maka?
Yes. And so there's Mele, I think, relates to recitation of like not a prayer, but something poetic.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really sure how that breaks down, but yeah, Mele Kalikimaka.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
so much. Let me just